Hi, this is Travis Shaw with the Mosby Heritage Area Association, and we're trying something new out today. You know what they say, modern problems require modern solutions. So this is a test at something I'm going to call virtual visiting. So what we'll do is we'll take you virtually to one of the sites in our heritage area. Now, as you guys probably know, I'm real big on colonial era history, the Revolutionary War and so forth. So I'm going to take you virtually to one of my favorite historical sites from that era that's here within the heritage area, and that is the Ketoctin Baptist Church located just outside of Purcellville, Virginia. So I'm going to take you there kind of virtually right now. Let's take a look. Hopefully everyone can see this beautiful picture. So as I said, the Ketoctin Church is located just outside of Purcellville, just north of town. This beautiful brick structure that you see was actually built in 1854, so it's not a colonial era structure, but we know that a church stood there at least since the 1750s. This is probably the fourth building to occupy this site. Now, what makes this site so cool is that, the other day, a few days ago, we were talking about the Old Stone Church in Leesburg and how that was the first Methodist property in Virginia. Well, the Ketoctin Baptist is the site of the first Baptist church in Virginia. So the church history originates in the 1750s. Members of the Philadelphia Association of Baptists were sending missionaries down into Virginia to try and collect these Baptist communities. So the original church was associated with the Philadelphia Association, but by the 1760s, the churches in Virginia split off and formed their own Baptist association, and that would become known as the Ketoctin Baptist Association because the constitution for this new association was actually drawn up right here at the Ketoctin Baptist Church. And it encompassed churches not only in Loudoun County, but as far west as modern West Virginia and then east into Fairfax. So this was really the epicenter of the Baptist Church in Virginia in the colonial era. It also, in the 1770s, becomes an epicenter for revolutionary activity, and that's due to the actions of Reverend John Marks. John Marks was the preacher here at Ketoctin Baptist Church during the time. Like many Baptists, he was very dissatisfied with the established church. Before the Revolutionary War, the Anglican Church is the official church of Virginia. Even if you did not belong, you still had to tithe, pay money to support the Anglican Church. So this was a major sticking point for Marks and a lot of other Baptists and Lutherans and Methodists throughout the area. And Marks would take it a step further. He would actually preach from the pulpit here against British taxation, against British policy. And a lot of the revolutionary activity and revolutionary fervor in 1775 and 1776 is attributed to Reverend Marks. So he is actually going to be credited with getting a lot of the local men from Loudoun County to sign up for the revolutionary service. And that actually included at least 5 of his sons. He has 5 sons who all go off to fight. All of his daughters end up marrying revolutionary soldiers. And probably the most important of his sons to fight was his son Isaiah. Now, Isaiah Marks, he becomes a captain in the Virginia line. He serves throughout the war. He's grievously wounded at the Battle of Brandywine in 1777, but he continues his military service all the way to the very end of the war in 1783. Now, unfortunately for poor Isaiah, he's still suffering from the effects of his wounds. So when he returns to Virginia finally in 1785, just 2 years after the end of the war, he will die at the age of 30, and he's actually buried here. Let me see if I can share this again, see if I can make this work. He is buried at the Ketoctin Church. There's his stone there you can see on the right. Captain in the Continental Army. He dies at the age of 30 from complications from his wounds. Over on the left, you can see a list of other revolutionary soldiers who are buried there at the Ketoctin Church, including Abel Marks, who is one of Isaiah's brothers, and then his father, the Reverend John Marks, is mentioned there as a patriot. Interestingly enough, Isaiah, like many other revolutionary soldiers, actually received land for his service in the war. His land was mostly in Kentucky, and he named that farm Brandywine Farm after the place where he had been wounded. and one of his brothers continued to occupy that property. And from what I understand, it's a place where thoroughbred horses are raised now. So, um, anyways, in addition to Isaiah and John Marks, there are several other really fascinating people who are buried here at the Ketoctin Baptist Church. Two people I want to mention real quick. The first of which is Clinton Hatcher. Clinton Hatcher is a name that may be familiar to some of you. Let's see. Well, Clinton right here. There he is. On the left there is Clinton Hatcher. Clinton Hatcher was a local man. When the Civil War began, he was a avowed secessionist, but in an interesting story, he ended up going to Washington before the start of the war to meet Abraham Lincoln, the newly elected president. He went with a friend. He told his friend he would not shake Lincoln's hand. And as they went through the line of people there greeting the new president, true to his word, he did not shake Lincoln's hand. But Lincoln noticed something about this young man, called him back. You see, Clinton Hatcher was 6'5". He was a very, very tall guy. And Lincoln, being a tall man himself, called Hatcher back over and kind of casually said, he hadn't met anyone who quite stacked up that high. And the two men, shook hands. They stood back to back, measured their height. Lincoln swore that Clinton Hatcher had at least half a head on him. What ended up being kind of a tense situation became a very cordial one, although it certainly would not dissuade Clinton Hatcher from his secessionist leanings. Just a few months later, at the Battle of Ball's Bluff, Clinton Hatcher would be the flag bearer of the 8th Virginia Infantry, one of the local Confederate regiments. And Clinton Hatcher would actually be struck down in that battle. He would be killed carrying the flag of the 8th Virginia and would be returned to Ketoctin Church to be buried there. The last individual I want to point out is someone that we don't know a whole lot about, and that is Jemima Pearson. You can see her grave there on the right, and if you look very closely, you can say it says former servant of. Jemima Pearson is the only enslaved or formerly enslaved individual that we know of who is buried at the Ketoctin Baptist Church. And like many enslaved people, we don't know really anything about her life. We do know that she died in 1868, so just a few short years after emancipation. But it is one of the few graves that we know of that you can visit of a formerly enslaved person. So I know that this is probably not the most ideal situation. A lot of us are stuck inside right now, but that doesn't mean we have to stop learning about the wonderful historical sites. And hopefully at some point you'll get a chance to go out, visit the Ketoctin Baptist Church. It's a really wonderful site, beautiful site, and an important part of our local heritage. So thank you so much for joining me. This is Travis Shaw, again with the Mosby Heritage Area Association. And like I said, this is a test of our virtual visits program. Let me know what you think of it. And if you like it, we'll keep doing it. Thank you so much.